The Porsche Sport Podcast, powered by Porsche Centre Leeds. Test drive the new Porsche Taycan and experience soul electrified.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The podcast will start.
The Porsche Sport Podcast, the only weekly podcast to bring you all the latest Porsche motorsport news and opinions. The Porsche Mobile One Super Cup, World Endurance Series, Le Mans 24 Hours, the IMSA WeatherTech Championship, Porsche Carrera Cup, the 24-Hour Series, SRO Championships, esports, and exclusive interviews. Make sure to subscribe on your chosen podcast platform. For more information and exclusive news, visit PorscheSport.com.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Porsche Sport Podcast, because joining me today on the programme is European Le Mans Series pit lane reporter Hayley Edmonds. Hayley, welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's our pleasure. Now, of course, we're just about to get started with a brand new series, new season, in the European Le Mans Series. And who have you got your eyes on? Because it's got quite a good entry for this season. Who's caught your eye on the entry list for ELMS this year?
Really looking forward to seeing Christian Reed's new lineup, and also to see Michael Fassbender back after the break that we've had, and see how he's been going with inter-season practicing and testing.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I mean, to have, obviously, Michael's a huge name in Hollywood, and we've seen this before with Patrick Dempsey, Paul Newman, Steve McQueen. It's not uncommon. James Dean, even all the way back in the 50s. But as a reporter in the paddock, from someone who's very close to the series, what is the impact of someone of his profile coming into the series? What effect has it had in the paddock?
With regards to the paddock, I mean, everyone, to be really honest with you, I do get the impression everyone does kind of keep their heads down and mind their own business. I don't think it's, he hasn't probably had the Hollywood welcome people would have expected him to have had, because I think that everyone really realizes that he's come into such, a prestigious series and taking part at a very extremely high level, and that he has a lot of pressure on his shoulders. So I wouldn't say, even with regards to the team, I think they're very kind of pragmatic, practical, and there's no kind of, he's not a favourite, I'd say. I think that there's a lot of focus on him, but positive focus to really kind of bring him up to level, to reassure him. So yeah, I mean, I was, to be completely honest with you, I never had seen until he actually, until I'm working with him on the LMS, I'd never actually seen any of his films. So to me, I mean, it was obviously, I've interviewed Patrick Dempsey before, and I've seen some of his, seen some Grey's Anatomy, but yeah, I just think that it's, I don't think it had a huge impact on the actual paddock itself, because I think that everyone is extremely professional. Everyone's obviously, it's cool to see him around, but he's very discreet, he's very humble, and he's great to interview, which is fantastic, as you know. I mean, it was a huge perk. Always, really interesting things to say. And I mean, it's been a real pleasure to have him. And as I said, especially after Road to Le Mans series, I think it's just really exciting to have him around. He's obviously attracted a lot of attention as well, because he's got a production team following him, following him to every event. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's had a profound impact on the paddock itself, because he is, he's just very humble and very discreet and lays very, very low, which, if I'm right to have understood, if I've understood correctly, wasn't necessarily the case with Patrick Dempsey, because don't forget that Michael Fassbender doesn't have any social media or anything like that. So yeah, he's, as I say, a pleasure to obviously have him around and giving great visibility to the ELMS. But yeah, just as I say, really discreet and humble, and people just don't really, I don't want to say pay much attention, but he's not, people aren't, waiting outside the paddock, especially as you know, this year we've everything's been going on behind closed doors. So yeah.
Of course, yeah. And I guess in a way in the European Le Mans series, what maybe some fans might not realise is that Michael's one of many people in that paddock who have been very successful in their career, whether that be as a banker or a doctor or whatever it might be. Would it be right to say that that's the kind of nucleus of the ELMS paddock, being a kind of pro-am style series?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's maybe that kind of helps, the fact that there is this atmosphere as well, and this kind of comprehension and respect as well for these people, because it's not easy. I think it's been really tough on him. As you say, as I said, you watch Road to Le Mans and you can really see that it's just not been an easy ride for him thus far. But yeah, as you say, it is kind of a nucleus. You're absolutely right in saying that and it is the case of a lot of drivers that do participate. So maybe there is that kind of mutual understanding there, as he has, succeeded in his career.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I guess I think what maybe a lot of other people might not realise or understand is that you talk about jumping in at the deep end. A 911 RSR is it's a factory designed car. It's a monster. It's a real hard race car to get on top of, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, this season, so next week in Barcelona, he'll be jumping into the RSR 19. So it'll be the first time he'll be competing in that car. Now, if I've understood correctly, I actually spoke to Ricard Leitz, and he said that, he's very confident that everything, in the adaptation process and everything was absolutely fine. So, but yeah, I mean, it's an absolute beast of a car, and I get caught out every single time I'm in the Porsche garage when it pulls away, and it scares the living out of me. But yeah, I mean, it's I think a lot of people underestimate the actual what he's doing. He's driving an absolute beast of a car, as you said. And all of that with it's just so much to take on. And I'll tell you what, hats off to Fassbender. I think he's great, and as I say, he's extremely humble, real hardworking, and so yeah.
I think it's how to find the time, of course, with being an actor as well. With that, I mean, you mentioned a Proton Porsche. They're once again pulling out the stops, and their reach across global motorsport there seems to be continuing to go. Of course, going out to America and winning at Sebring as well with the RSR 19, which is really exciting for them. And of course, they were, although it was all WeatherTech and Porsche, they were the engine room of that project. And they've got their new RSR 19s, which is even louder, so it's even more scary in their pit lane. Porsche are coming at this all guns blazing. Do you think that'll kind of stoke a response from the other factories that are in the series, like Ferrari or Aston or what have you? Because it's a transitional time at the moment in the sport.
Absolutely. I mean, as you say, going on at all guns blazing, you're correct. Maybe some of the other car manufacturers have a different approach with regards to competing. We discussed Iron Lynx, for example, and their female team. I think that, maybe they're kind of pushing it in other directions, which I think it's fantastic as well. Whether they go as far as, it's always great to have someone, as and Porsche's always up there, really kind of always raising the bar. And, as you say, where Porsche goes, a lot of other, they have to kind of follow, don't they? It's almost like an obligation. But I guess, it's just the approach of the other teams as well. How would they do that? I mean, the other car manufacturers, how would they do that? I mean, I like to say that, it's just they just raise the bar super, super high. And as you say, they're just going on it all guns blazing. Sebring did fantastically well. Unfortunately, in 24 Hours of Daytona, that was a real unfortunate incident at the start. But yeah, Bahrain, the great end of year result. So in WEC, so yeah, I mean, and then obviously winning ELMS, I'm kind of forgetting that. So yeah, I mean, they're just dominant. They're on a roll right now. So yeah, it's fantastic to see. If the other car manufacturers will kind of try and match that, I honestly have no idea. I mean, I'd like to think so. I hope so, because they're really kind of setting a fantastic example.
Yeah, because I guess, I mean, Ferrari, it amazes me how many Ferraris there are out there in customer hands as well, given especially how expensive these cars are to run. It boggles my mind how much they're out there. Now let's go back a wee bit, Hayley, to you in your career. When was, you've obviously had an amazing career across motorsport, but when was your attention first grabbed by racing? When was that first memory of when it captured your imagination?
I mean, I guess growing up in the UK, we, in the 90s, I mean, the rally, I really come from rallying, basically, and it was on television. And I guess that's where it kind of started. I started getting into, I actually come professionally, I used to compete in extreme sports like snowboarding and wakeboarding and skiing. Yeah, so that's actually where it all kind of started for me. And then I'd say my two worlds kind of converged or like merged with the X Games when they had Rallycross.
Yes.
With Monsieur Loeb, Sebastian Loeb, for example. And that's when, and like Nitro Circus and all these kind of things where it was motorsports, but in a different format, if you will. So with FMX as well, I've done a lot of FMX, freestyle motocross as well. And then I started to work, I commented over here, commenting on the NASCAR Euro Wheeling Series, which wasn't a huge success over here. So, I'm not going to lie, after one season, that was it. And then, yeah, I mean, so it's just been a real kind of a gradual process, but I'd say from a spectator point of view, it was definitely with rallying in the UK in the 90s, because the scene was just, it was phenomenal, wasn't it?
It was. It would be hard to explain now, because of course there's so little motorsport on terrestrial television now, where people can't really stumble across motorsport anymore. You've got to, or any sport for that matter. There's not a great deal on free career, but yeah, I mean, those days when it was, you remember when it was Mackinnon versus Sainz, RAC Rally, and then Mackinnon tears a corner off his car, and then Sainz throws his helmet through the back of the window, and this is all on BBC Grandstand at the time.
Yes, that's right. And, of course, as I'm sure you're more familiar with, is Mr. McRae. I mean, what an absolute rally legend. And what did he, I don't think really realised the impact that he had and how famous he was. He was huge in the UK. Everyone knows who Colin McRae is, of I'd say my age, anyone who was around, who watched sport in the 90s. So, to have these legends, especially, British legends in the sport, because, I mean, obviously my tastes kind of matured, if you like, and I kind of went on to watch a lot more, and I actually absolutely love watching is Group B. It's my favourite era.
Michel Mouton.
Oh, heroes. Yes, San Remo rally. So yeah, no, that's what I watch regularly. Group B era. Would it be YouTube videos or I've got a DVD player, so DVDs. But yeah, I mean, it's so yeah, I mean, that's my real passion now is Group B. I love watching Group B. Could watch it all day.
Have you had the chance? Now I know that Michelle does an absolutely incredible job with the FIA Women in Motorsport Commission. Do you ever get the chance to come across Michelle and pick her brains on Group B days?
Absolutely. I've never had that chance. I'm not going to lie. I was quite overwhelmed when I saw her last in Monte Carlo. Actually in Gap. So Rally Monte Carlo. Actually saw her in Gap anyway. And I would see her quite often, but I've never had that opportunity, but I can honestly tell you, I think that's one of the interviews that I would love to do, is to discuss her Group B era days, because I mean, just everything she kind of took on, and I don't mean just on a professional level. I think that even her peers at that point, where I mean, she was, I don't want to have to, how do I say it? She had to kind of, not only she had to drive, she had to kind of take on as well. There was a lot of sexism was rife at that point, basically.
Oh, huge. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to, and
no, you're right. You're right. Walter Rowe was quite nasty to her.
I know, yes, and Vatanen apparently, and I think that's we kind of we maybe overlooked it. I don't know, we overlook it these days, but I think that she was unfortunately, she had a lot on her plate. But yeah, as I say, she is probably one of my all-time female athletes, motorsport drivers, whatever, everything combined. Michelle Mouton is my hero. I think she's fantastic. And I think what she's doing as well is women in motorsports, FIA women's motorsports is fantastic as well. So yeah, Michelle Mouton all the way.
I love her no nonsense approach as well. She's never asked for any consolation whatsoever. In fact, the opposite. She's I think you could not get a better personality for the role that she's in, because it requires a strong personality, I think. I remember one of my favorite interviews I ever saw with her. This is one for YouTube, going into the depths of YouTube. I couldn't try and find it again. I probably couldn't. And it was a Tour de Corse like review clip when she was in Group B, and the person, the TV reporter, put the microphone in and said, now, do you know, Michelle, that this is the rally of 10,000 corners? Do you think that as a woman you'll be able to handle this? And you know how Michelle Mouton has this death stare, you know, that icy stare. She just looks at him and she goes, deadpan, she goes, this is my 11th Tour de Corse, so I think I'll be fine.
Oh man, yeah.
Just like
classic Mouton, classic Mouton. Yeah, I think, yeah. It's even the journalist approach. When you really see the interviews, it was almost surprised. Everyone was always constantly surprised to see her doing so well. I mean, she almost won. I think was it 1982? She almost won she was vice champion.
World title, yeah.
Yeah, and that was because her father was sick. I think the reason why she died. So yeah, so unfortunately she couldn't win the championship, but she'll always be the world champion in our hearts.
Absolutely.
That's cheesy. But yeah, so Michelle Mouton, fantastic. Audi Quattro. In fact, here we go. Look, honestly, this isn't placement. I don't know if look at that. I've started constructing it with my daughter, the Audi Quattro.
You can see.
Oh yes, you've done it. Nice one.
that was lockdown one.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Now tell us about rallying, because I'm very jealous of your job as a stage end reporter for the WRC. You know, seeing the drivers come. They've literally come out of stage mode for about 20 seconds. The door opens. The microphone goes in. Just tell us about your involvement in the rallying world and what that experience is like of being at the stage end.
Right, so being at the stage end, there are two stage ends. So firstly, there's a stage end where there's live television. So live television is everything's cabled, and you'll have obviously a director in your ear, so you'll get the information, you'll get the times. Everything is like super. You get all the information you need, basically, because don't forget, we're not on some. We can be in some incredibly remote places, and be it in the Italian Alps, in Monza or in the or in Mexico, and I think that it's important to kind of highlight the fact that if you're not doing a live, then more chances than not, you have very little or no information. So, which is complicated, because what will happen is that the driver will come up to you, and you've got obviously the big whiteboard, you've got a board at stage end with all the times down on them. And if, it hasn't been communicated enough in time, you can often find yourself talking to a driver who's just done maybe the stage of his life, or maybe it's gone really badly. I mean, obviously, visually, you can see if they've had crashes or something. But yeah, I mean, it's credible. It's a real privileged role to have, because you're getting the reaction after a stage where these guys, unfortunately, many girls, they've just kind of been going Mach 10, be it down country roads, mountain roads, whatever, in the dark, they guys, especially, Monte Carlo, for example, when you're at stage end and they've just done, a stage in the dark, and it's just fantastic. It's as I say, you're just getting this real pure reaction, and then just, the adrenaline, you can feel the adrenaline. But I must admit, it's extremely, extremely hard. It really is. I mean, when I started working, in circuits, in circuit racing, and I was like, but you have all the information here. You have all the times. You have time difference. You have everything, And then you're the end of the stage, trying to work out quickly the time difference or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, it's the job in itself is absolutely fantastic. I love it. I love, seeing them come up to stage end and express themselves, their anger or whatever, obvious or happiness or whatever, what is obviously, as you can probably understand, is a lot harder with since COVID is the fact that everything's distance, everything's a lot more, masks, so you get a lot less expression, and you can't, it's harder to kind of react to how they might anything they might be hiding, for example. But yeah, it's just incredibly privileged position to be in, and I completely appreciate that. And I'm just so happy just to hear, the roar of a Yaris when it comes up to you, or the Hyundais or whatever. It's just you're in it, you're in that zone, and it's a fantastic place to be. But as I say, there can be, you can feel very kind of far from everything, because you don't have all of the information at stage ends that you might have if you're doing live TV, for example. That can be hard sometimes because, if you've missed something, people, because as I say, we've got a radio, and obviously it's our phones for internet. But if, you don't have any, you can't get the channel, if you can't get any radio signal, then you don't have anyone to hear, you just listen to. And because you do have some websites like EWRC where you can check the stage times, but they haven't all been kind of confirmed by the FIA at that point. So, kind of taking a risk. Anyway, so yeah, it's, as I say, I completely appreciate the fact, and it's just a fantastic job to do. I'm doing it I've only been doing it for my second year now, because before then I was working for Citroën. Prior to that, there was a show called, what's it called? I can't remember now. Citroën, CWRC Live, that was it. And that was a show, just basically a recap of the day for the Citroën's performance in the rally. Each day, at the end of the day, we'd do it in French and English, present, and interview the drivers when they drove in to the service park. So yeah, I mean, it's completely different because, at that point when I was hosting that show, the challenge was doing in French and in English, and then you get the drivers, but by then the drivers had kind of calmed down. They're like, a lot more reflective on their day, but which was a great experience, obviously, because I worked with, I was lucky enough to work with Ogier and Loeb, Chris Meek, Craig Breen, Mads Odsberg, some real fantastic drivers. So yeah, very lucky.
Absolutely, that's quite a cast of drivers. There's some quite big characters in there as well. Chris and Absolutely. Craig and these guys.
Yes, some big characters. Yes, yeah, you can say that. But I think that when I was in that situation, they were back by the time I'd be interviewing them. They're obviously a lot calmer and a lot, because I know that some drivers can be very over-expressive sometimes. And it's not necessarily what the car manufacturers want to hear every time, but yeah. So I was very fortunate to work with Meek, and great, fantastic guy, Breen as well. But obviously, Loeb and Ogier, just legends, aren't
the
they?
Greats.
Yes.
Yeah, they are special. It's amazing. Ogier continues to amaze me what he's capable of. I mean, whatever Malcolm Wilson had to dip in his pocket to get him in the team, it was money well spent, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in Monte Carlo this year, he'd won the rally, and obviously, it comes down to the final power stage, and he could have just done, a final stage. I don't want to say cruisy. He didn't have to really go, Mach 10. Mm-hmm. But he won the power stage, and and Molly was like, he didn't have to go, set the best time in power stage, and he was like, I was just feeling it, it's just that real kind of, the feel, I guess. And I think he's just a fantastic driver to watch, isn't he? He's great to watch. He's great to talk to. He's a really nice guy, very humble, very intelligent. Ogier, he's great. Fantastic. And we're really happy, obviously, that he's doing another year in WRC because because he was going to stop after last season, but but he's, as he said with COVID, he didn't feel like he was properly putting a proper end to the season. So yeah, he's back, and it's great to see.
Yeah, getting a full season at it. Now, let's talk about Porsche and rallying, because Porsche have always been involved with rallying, won the Monte Carlo back in 1968, and taken a number of quite special cars. The 904, I love the story about the 904 going there and finishing on the podium as well. But even Michel Mouton raced rallied in a 911 as well. But I think there's an opportunity, especially with the era of rallying we're going into. I think there's an opportunity for Porsche to come back, and whether I think they should. If you obviously know the sport well, if you were in charge of pitching the WRC to Porsche, how would you go about it? What would you say? How would you sell the sport to them?
Oh, okay. How would I sell the sport to Porsche? I mean, that is a real tough question. How would I sell it? I mean, I guess it's just an all-terrain, thrilling championship. You get, multiple opportunities to really kind of, I'd say, mettre en avant, to put your car's capabilities out there, to really show what your car can do, what a Porsche can do in all conditions. That's on snow, ice, gravel, tarmac, the whole lot. This is just a perfect opportunity. If you want to say this car is is a great all-round car, this is the championship for you. It's just so fantastic. When I was watching, just Sardinia last year, just the footage, the images.
Oh,
it's what most sports dreams are made of. Come on, get on the WRC. We're waiting for you, Porsche.
It's your annual brochure done in one shot. You just I took that on the power stage, going down the gravel with the plume of. I think with these new rules in rallying, they've got, for me, you've got to have more flexibility of types of car. Because at the moment, it's let's be honest, it's shopping cars, which are the base. I mean, the fastest shopping cars ever built. But I think, you look at the amount of companies that have a kind of small SUV, which seems to be the fashion these days. Not my thing, but they sell. Completely. I mean, could you imagine a WRC Macan? I think that would be quite cool.
I would love to see it. I mean, I was reading something today. I can't remember what I was reading, saying that we're just waiting for you guys to come back, basically. It would be fantastic. It'd be fantastic to see, especially with the new rules next year as well. I think that it's just a prime opportunity to really kind of, how would I say? It's just real kind of wild, cool, background context rallying. I love it. Safari rally now as well. It's just you go from Finland to Safari rally, to Monte Carlo, to it's just Croatia, Estonia, but Mexico. They've had Argentina, Chile. It's beautiful, wonderful, fantastic.
Japan is what I'm excited about. I can't wait for Japan.
Oh yeah.
Is that's the end of the season? Japan.
That's correct.
Yeah. Are you going out for that?
Well, so I actually don't know which ones I'm going out to until, because I alternate with Ben Constanturos.
Yeah.
Our lovely Ben.
I don't know him personally, but I know who he is. Yes.
Yeah, he's a fantastic guy. So yeah, we alternate. We don't really know until it's also to do with our how would I say, how we can kind of fit it in around our schedules as well. But it's I'd love to go to, oh my gosh, an asphalt from tarmac rally would be fantastic in Japan. Oh yeah.
Especially with, of course, with Toyota's involvement in it too. Let's talk about pit lane reporting. We'll go back to the pit lane in ELMS and what have you. Who's been your favorite pit lane interview?
Right, so best interviews in the ELMS. I'd say Christian Reed. I go interview him a few times, and he's just sits in the back, and he has his mask on, and he'll look at me. He'll do everything to kind of avoid an interview. I don't know why. But no, I'm joking. Everyone's been really, really nice, to be honest with you. No one's, nothing that crazy. Albuquerque, fantastic guy. They're all really nice. Touch wood. It's going to stay like that.
Well, that was going to be my next question. What's been the most difficult pit lane interview? And maybe if we stretch it out, most difficult pit lane interview / stage end interview. Because stage end, it can be...
That is a good question.
Can be icy.
End. I think I didn't actually do the interview, but when Ogier said, this car is undrivable, when I was working for Citroën.
Oh, yeah.
And I was in the service park at Citroën, obviously. I watched that. I thought, he's not going to be staying around next year. I knew that he just had enough. That was really bad. That was, I think that was, I would say it wasn't bad. It was just how everyone reacted around me. And it was just, there've been some crazy end of stage interviews. Who else? Actually, my most intimidating interview, the first time I interviewed Sebastian Loeb at Rally Mexico, I was so overwhelmed because he was such a hero of mine. You know, I'd gone to the Champs-Elysees and taken photos next to his rally car with my brother, you know, when we were younger, and it was all kind of, you know, and to finally have him in front of me and having to do the interview in English and in French, I was just, beside myself. I was so nervous that I made a mistake in French. I said, so stage in English is obviously like stage, like a stage. In French, stage is like something you do to kind of like a, like training. It's like a training.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
So I actually badly translated stage, and I was like, "Stage, how's your stage?" And he, in French, I was like, "C'est comment?"
How's your training?
And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like,
no.
But luckily, I was just in my corner, like, just answer something, and I think I just. But he
Pretend I said the right thing, please.
Yeah, no, he was fantastic. He was a great guy. Lob is a really, really, really polite, humble guy as well. And luckily it didn't really go to pot. But I was so overwhelmed when I met him. And we just have like one of your all-time heroes in front of you and having to do it in English and French. And I was like, oh, why? But so I'd say that Loeb, that was a pretty crazy interview. In that's odd. I don't know. I guess so. I'm going to go back. Worst interview. Well, do you remember? I mean, you know, when I keep on talking about Fastbender, but obviously, isn't it? But I mean, when he in his outlap during practice, he crashed the car. Do you remember that at the Castellet?
Yeah.
And it was really awkward. Like there was a real kind of that was kind of a strange feeling in the paddock at that point, especially when we saw the RSR come back and the state it came in. And I was actually standing next to someone from another team at that point. And he was like, "My heart is bleeding for this car." And I was like, "Dude, your heart it's not the only heart that's bleeding for this car." And then I was like, I had to interview him, and he clearly was just like, he was, he's, it was dealt with it amazingly, but he felt so bad. And, in fact, I had to go and interview him just after that, and it was not even the actual event in itself.
How do you approach that when you know that the person you're interviewing has had a difficult? How do you? Do you go for the kind of arm around the shoulder approach, or do you just be kind of blunt and just trying to dive in? How do you go about it?
Well, I don't think that you're going to be. I mean, I guess sometimes it's just you have to adapt. I'd say you have to adapt to the situation and the person you have in front of you. And initially, there's no point in going in all guns blazing, as you say, and being hard, and because it's while sometimes you can get. You can get different responses from people. That's not the objective. It's not to make them look stupid, and it's not to kind of ridicule them. And at that point, I was like, we've seen what happened, Michael, but can you just tell us, what has happened and what this means for you and the team? And, it must have been so hard for him to have dealt with that. And, he didn't want me going like, oh, we all saw what happened on your outlap, mate, third way around the circuit. But yeah, you just have to really kind of approach things. You have to understand the position that they're in and be a bit sensitive about it. You can't just always be, hard and insensitive. So yeah, I guess, sometimes, people are just, they can be outright rude sometimes, drivers, or, not polite. And then you can just go in and be a bit like, well, why are you doing like this? Or, you approach it differently. But you have to kind of take the temperature before you go in. So, yeah.
That's always a good approach, isn't it? Now, you were involved last year. Of course, Le Mans was pushed back with the world under lockdown and what have you. But we had a virtual alternative last year, the 24-hour virtual Le Mans, which you're involved with. Now, when I spoke to Alan McNish about this, he described it as a game changer. What were your thoughts on being involved in the virtual Le Mans?
100% agree with Alan. 100% agree. It was fantastic. I don't think we realised at the time. We knew that it was going to blow up. We knew it was going to be popular, but not to the extent it was a huge success. And we didn't expect it. I didn't expect it to be so well followed, so well received as it had. But so deserved to everyone who worked on it. Gérard Neveu, Motorsport Games, ACO, they did a fantastic job to do it. And we were really in the lockdown. It was like, locked out heavy. And it was, the studio was just by Les Champs-Élysées. And it was surreal. We were in this, it was almost like being in a bubble, like a reality TV bubble, when they just kind of shut the whole, the outside world off. And it was fantastic. I think that the commentators were great. Obviously, Ben Constantinos, Martin Haven, was it Chris McCarthy and Lewis McGlade? And they all did a fantastic job of really kind of it was exactly like the real thing. Obviously, the situation was slightly different, but it was a great event to be a part of. And I just have, hats off to everyone that was involved, because I think they did a fantastic job. They really did. So yeah, the production
in such a short space of time too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like extremely short space of time. But you just saw the results and the drivers that took part. It's like it was just fantastic. You just be watching Alonso driving, and we went out. We didn't see any of Verstappen, but the producers had because obviously had all of their Zoom all their cameras set up, so you could see these guys taking part in 24 hours of Le Mans virtual. And they, when I get to talk to them after, they'd be like, this is my dream. My dream is to take part in 24 hours of Le Mans. Thus far, it's as close as I'm going to get. But, for some of the drivers, it was just a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it was just the views and the how it went so viral. It was great. And it was, as I say, it was, but what I thought was equally important, and I really tried to highlight this. I think that highlight this is the fact that it really put the actual job. How would I say? I think that up until then, maybe sim racing didn't get the credit it deserved. In fact, it didn't get the credit it deserved. And I think it took these world-class drivers to be like, oh, hang on here, actually, this is really tough. And, and it's the kind of, the shoe was on the other foot. These guys were listening intently to these sim drivers and, taking all of the advice in. And I think that that's what was another fascinating aspect of it, is the fact that these guys, these sim racers that have never, been appreciated, I guess, for the work that they do, because it is intense, it's, and here they were, driving with, on the same team as these motorsport legends. And I think that's what's fantastic. And it really reunited drivers from all championships as well. So yeah, I mean, that was the beauty of it. And just to see everyone, so involved. That was another thing that I was really surprised about, the fact that they, the teams would really dedicate the space, huge areas to kind of teams, install sims, and they'd all be working together. And yeah, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Great to see, great to be a part of. So yeah, and I'm really happy that it gave a lot of visibility to, and gave a lot more credibility to sim racing, to sim racers.
I completely agree. I think it's been one big snowball over the last sort of 18 months, I guess, isn't it? It's and the thing that is fantastic for me, if you were watching that on TV or on YouTube, the thing is that it's not some sort of space age technology. You can have it in your own house. That you can run it on a reasonable computer. You can. It's not as if it's some space age technology that only race teams have. They were using a consumer piece of technology, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there were big differences in the sim setups. I remember Captain Leg was like, look at my setup. It's like, you can't compare this to like Lando Norris or Charles Leclerc, who had like, the sim rigs that cost thousands. So I think there was a kind of maybe an inequality slightly there. But the fact that it did kind of bring everyone together from all championships, and and it was just so great. Someone live streaming on Twitch, and it was just the whole involvement of it all. And it was just to watch it. It was just so realistic. It really was. And of course,
I agree.
And we had some teams actually in the studio, so you could see how they were, relaying, and it was just so realistic. I mean, I say realistic. It was realistic, but I say realistic as in comparing it to the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
And what do we think for this year for 24 Hours of Le Mans in September? What's the word on the ground in France? Do you think the fans will be able to get back?
Oh, honestly, do you know what, Peter? I honestly have no idea. I don't know, because it's so hard to tell. I'd love to think it, but we're so far behind with vaccinations and everything. I'd love to think that, because, as I said, last year it was very surreal being at the 24 Hours of Le Mans without any spectators. It was just, but I honestly couldn't say. I'd love to have some inside information or something. That I know. All I know is that the ACO is an extremely powerful association. Association. It's extremely powerful. So I know that if things need to be done, then they will be able to do it. How would I say it without sounding, because
they've got a lot of pull.
That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
So I think that if there is a way of doing something, then ACO will be able to do something. But I just honestly, I couldn't tell you, Peter. I'd love to, I wouldn't like to think that the 24 Hours of Le Mans would go on like last year without any spectators. But if the fact that it goes on already is already great. I think we kind of overlooked that as well. I think the fact that ELMS. Just last year, how within the space of 2 weeks, we went, from Barcelona, because Barcelona went into like a red zone or something. I don't know how they describe it. And then, instead of just cancelling that that stop, they said, okay, everyone to Le Castellet, look at Le Castellet 240, let's go. I thought that was fantastic. That last minute just planning, and how well they managed to juggle the calendar, and finally, we only lost one stop, but it was just brilliant. I just, as I say, once again, take my hats off to how everything was managed and organised during an extremely difficult time last year for events.
It is magnificent, and I think it's almost not gone unnoticed with the frustration that everybody obviously wants to get back to what we're used to, or what we were used to. I think it's easy to forget, as you rightly say. The logistics involved boggles my mind about getting drivers and cars and mechanics and parts and all these kinds of things. It's extraordinary. Now we have our final question, which we have the same final question for every guest on the show, Hayley. We call it the Racing Genie, and it's basically where you get to choose any race. If you were to do any race in any car and with any co-driver or teammate, what would it be? So, for example, Earl Bamber, he chose Dale Earnhardt and the Daytona 500.
Right.
What the others? Matteo Jaminet chose the Alan McNish GT1 Mobile One Porsche at the Nordschleife with Stefan Beloff.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah, that's a combination, isn't it? Yeah.
Right.
I think Larry Tenvoord chose his Cup car at Monaco with Ayrton Senna. So it gives you an idea of the breadth of choices that we've seen.
Does it have to be in a Porsche?
No, it can be whenever you like.
It would be either Timo Salonen.
Okay.
So Rally Genie. My answer would be, the driver would be. I want to say Michelle Mouton, but I've spoken a lot about her. It would be Michelle Mouton at San Remo Rally. Yeah, in the Audi Quattro. But I've already said that, and I've already spoken. But if it wasn't her, then it would be Timo Salonen in a Peugeot T205, T16 at Thousand Lakes, maybe.
Big jumps.
Yeah.
Big jumps with that. Would you prefer to be co-driver or in a sister car driving?
Oh, in a sister car.
Yeah, so would I. Yeah, I would get.
Good. Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, I reckon so. What would yours be?
Oh, it changes all the time. You see, it changes all the time. I think at the moment, driver definitely Harley Haywood.
Okay.
Harley Haywood in Porsche RS Spider, LMP2 at Macau. Well, no, not Kill, of course.
Okay, if not, then the Pink Pig. I love the pig. I love it. I know
Pig.
It's cheesy, isn't it? I love Pink Pig at 24 Hours of Le Mans. Yeah, Pink Pig at 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Pink Pig 24 Hours of Le Mans. Okay, so we've spread bet there. That's our first Racing Genie spread bet.
That's a legend. It became such a legendary car, hasn't it?
A lot of people don't realize it was a Martini car, and Count Gregorio Rossi hated it. He thought it was. He says, "I do not want They owned the car and they ran the car, but he says, I do not want Martini anywhere near that. But you just do that's. I'm washing my hands of it." And then, of course, Reinhold Jost wrote it off.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Now I'm like Lancia Stratos. Oh, that's a hard question. I'm very indecisive. It's a huge default. I
see it.
I'm just going all over the shop now.
You won't believe this. I was commentating on a rallycross meeting at Knock Hill last autumn.
Fantastic.
And a guy turned up with a Lancia Stratos, and of course the first question is everyone asking, going, is it real? Because obviously there's so many replicas. And the second question is, and of course the answer was yes, it was a real one. And the second question is, were you mental? Because the dirt part through the quarry at Knock Hill is like moguls, and this thing, honestly, the bit of flames out the back of it on the downshifts. Wow! Oh, and it was quick, really quick.
I bet.
Yeah, I wouldn't have Stratos. That'd be good. Well, we've had our first Racing Genie rally answer. So you're the first to choose a rally car, and our first spread bet where we've got about 6 or 7 choices.
Oh shoot! I know. Sorry.
Not a problem. I like it. That's.
I'm still undecided. Wait, do I want the Quattro? Wait, if we want the Quattro, come on, Hayley. Four-wheel drive, come on, the Quattro. Wait, what about you? Yeah, I'm gonna be like tomorrow. I'm like, damn it, I should have the Delta. Why didn't I sell the Lancia Delta? But anyway, yeah. So
I've had that before. Where we had, I don't know if have you ever been in pit lane with Duncan Vincent before?
I do know Mr. Duncan Vincent. Yes,
yeah. He chose Alan McNish in a 962 Rothmans at the Nürburgring, but then he messaged me the next day and he goes, I should have chosen Birmingham Super Prix. I was like, Birmingham Super Prix? He's like, yeah. I was like, What?
Okay.
I was like, all right, done. That's fine.
Oh man, yeah. I reckon I'm just going to go with that and then just try and forget about it. Otherwise I'm just
you can let Luke know. He runs the social media, so he can. If you change your mind, he can put in a late entry for you.
Okay.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, Hayley, to talk all about. It's nice to talk about rallying for a change. Don't get to do that very often here on the show. It's normally all circuit racing. So it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and the best of luck for all your travels this season.
Thank you very much, Peter. It's been a pleasure to be a part of, and I look forward to listening to it. Thank you very much. And keep up the good work. I must admit, I do listen to the podcast. I think it's fantastic. From just, you giving a lot of insights into, championships and the seasons, even, to interviews. I think it's really great. So thank you very much. I feel very privileged once again to be a part of this. So thank you.
The Porsche Sport Podcast, powered by Porsche Centre Leeds. Test drive the new Porsche Taycan and experience Soul Electrified.